Battleline Podcast. And you know what? I don't do this often enough, guys, and I'm going to try to for the new listeners out there. I'm Ian Scotto, of course.
I'm Tonto Chris Toronto.
And no, I do often forget there are new people checking out every week, and I kind of expect the audience to be up on what we do, but a lot of people aren't, you know. So what we do every week is we really bring on people from all different backgrounds. Every now and again, we do a guest-free show, but people who are inspirational, whether it's special operations veterans, whether it's musicians like Ted Nugent or David Silvera from Korn, or actors. Hopefully we'll get someone like Pablo Schreiber on.
Pablo, you better get on the show, dude. Quit being a wuss. All right.
Yeah, or the many authors that we have on. But I'd say the connecting theme that we always say is people having faith, people getting through different stages of their life and conquering. And that's really what we do, I think, here at Battleline.
Yeah, we don't, and we've had guys that are in the political genre or the media. We've had Alex Jones on the show. We've had Graham out on the show, and we always, whether they want to or not, we always try to steer them back to, hey, what made you become the success? Which they are in their own genres, they're successful. What made you become the success that you are now? And that goes back to motivation. And every one we've had on, the common theme, whether you're left, right, indifferent, whether you believe in Christianity, whether you just have spirituality, whether you have another faith that you believe in, whether it's Islam or Hinduism, it's always comes back to believing in yourself and having faith in a higher power and overcoming adversity. Every one that we sat on the show has had to conquer an obstacle or two or 500, but they all have done it. And that's what the difference is with the show, is that we don't want to get into the low hanging fruit that's out there, the political BS, because you can always talk about racism on every side of the aisle. You can. We don't get into that. It's what we may touch on a little bit because of a conversation that goes that route, but we always steer it back to how did you overcome whatever obstacle that was in front of you, and how did you deal with adversity? What did you do, and what could you advise other people to do that are going through hard times in their life to continue on and in the end be successful? And that's however you gauge success. It doesn't have to be money. It can just be happiness in life. So yeah, very, very well said. I guess we get too arrogant within our own selves.
No, it happens. And I'll tell you what made me maybe during the show think of that, but that's why I'm really excited to have Clint Emerson on, because he's a guy who's conquered all different obstacles and is seriously thriving right now. But before we do, another thing is I often say to you guys, you know about Ned by now, but some of you may not know about Ned by now. Some of you may not have checked it out. So Ned is really the best CBD out there on the market. And the reason I say that is because they're completely transparent, and they back everything with research. So there's a lot of products out there who are mixing all things together, and it's not pure, clean CBD like they're doing from Paonia, Colorado. And I know for people who are suffering from either it's anxiety or sleeplessness, it's really helping them out. I mean, my dad was having some pain, and he's not a guy who complains often, and Ned CBD helped him out. And I know it's helped you out with all different things.
Well, and not just the CBD oil, they've branched out. I take the immunity defense, the immunity blend. I do that, and that is tremendous, especially out here in Nebraska when I'm outside running and it's minus, I should say -3, but it's freaking cold. It's 16, 17 degrees. Then you come into a hot area and you work out, you understand physical fitness, and going from those extreme conditions when you're running and sweating and you really do lower your immune system before it builds back up from working out or doing intense workouts. And to have that immunity blend helps me stay healthy. I haven't been throughout this whole thing, and I travel. Ian can even vouch for this. I travel everywhere still, even through all this. What are we calling it? COVID, whatever we're calling it now, hibbity bibbity virus thing we got going on. But I believe in it. I take it while I'm traveling, and I haven't been sick one time.
Both of us have had zero sickness for the past year,
and I can attribute it to a healthy lifestyle. I don't drink a whole
sure.
lot.
No, it's not. No, and that would be true. I mean, it would be overstating what Ned does, but it's like one tool in your
one tool. It's part of that healthy lifestyle.
For sure, diet, exercise, and supplementation.
And having
supplementation
and a pure supplementation that's actually not just the products that somebody's building up in a lab. It's real products growing up on the farm in Paonia, Colorado, Western Colorado. You don't get more pure than that. That's where my grandpa's farm is. I know that area. So yeah, Ned is fantastic, guys. And check out not just their CBD, but also all their other products, because they all work. And the body butter works too for inflammation. It works better than any analgesic I've ever used on sore muscles. So yeah.
Yeah, I know that Ned actually just brought on an Ironman athlete who's one of the best out there. Maybe we'll get him on the show at some point, but he got sold on the body butter. He was like, this is helping me more than anything out there. So we can't speak more highly of them. If you guys want to check them out, and actually go to their Instagram now. I don't know how they did it, but they got the name on there as Ned. So it's no longer Hello Ned or Meet Ned. It's just simply Ned. So if you want to follow them and learn more, you just got to go there at Ned on Instagram and try their CBD for yourself. We have a special offer for the podcast audience. Go to helloned.com/Battleline or enter Battleline at checkout for 15% off your first one-time order or 20% off your first subscription order, plus free shipping. That's HELLONED.com/Battleline to get 15% off your first one-time order or 20% off your first subscription order, plus free shipping. Go to their Instagram, follow us, tell them that we sent you at Ned. Thank you, Ned. With that, let's get into everything.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Twitch is on. Motherfucker, I'm going to shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
You know, Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline Podcast.
The switch is on. Battleline Podcast. Extremely excited to have Clint Emerson coming on. I have a ton of things I want to talk about, to be honest. You saw I wrote down this is a longer prep than usual, but I'll let you start it off because in some, I hate that we keep starting with unfortunate news, but it is a friend of yours, Jim Howe, has been taken off life support, and I know he's a guy who dressed up as Santa Claus, connected with the guys at Forged, right?
Yeah. He tremendous individual. Always, he was Santa Claus. If you look at pictures of him, he looked like Santa Claus. But again, tremendous individual that, even through the amputations that he had, he never felt sorry for himself. He never felt down. He was always somebody you could look at and like, man, I don't have it that bad. This guy, and he's still out there being a supportive person, not of just veterans, just of humanity, man.
What was the reason for the amputations?
I never got into that with him. I know it wasn't something that was related to combat. I think it was just a health issue. But I try to respect, and sometimes I ask. My curiosity gets the best of me. But I never did ask, brother.
It could be awkward for sure.
Sometimes I do at times. If it's a combat related, some reason I feel like I can ask, where if it's not, and honestly, after I started talking to him, I didn't even realize he had amputations. You focus so much on his energy and his outlook on life and him being Santa Claus. Really, you're like, man, this guy's amazing. I just never asked. Not saying it's rude, because sometimes your curiosity gets the best of you. That's why I love kids. Kids aren't afraid to. They're just going to ask. Hey, they're going to figure out what happened. What did you do? But I think it was more of me just starting to talk to him, and then I just didn't even pay attention to it. And whatever it is and whatever it was, it really didn't hold him back in his outlook on life. Tremendous individual. And guys, go to our Battleline Podcast page, or the Real 14th Hour, which is, he helped with our foundation at a fundraiser, which was amazing. And then also on the Battleline Tactical pages, you'll get to see see Jim and you can read about his story as well, and Ford Leather as well. Heath is tremendous and makes all those crazy, awesome leather things that we have. And that's how I got to know him, was through Heath. So Heath, I have more on him as well.
Yeah. So rest in peace to an extraordinary man. All right. I'm going to get into something lighter that I thought was interesting. And you're kind of up on it a little bit. You just checked it out. But basically, I've been hearing all about this Clubhouse app. I've been hearing about it from people they're not a sponsor, guys. This is just me being interested because I'd love to have them as a sponsor one day maybe. But I'm hearing people in like the Bitcoin cryptocurrency field talk about it. Even people in comedy and entertainment are talking about this thing. And yes, even people in the influencer realm, everything's going. It is very influencer driven, but I just was hearing interesting things, so I wanted to get on this thing. I downloaded the app, and it's invite only, and I'm like, I want to see what the deal is. So I go on Twitter, and it's like a lot of bigger names on here from what I've seen. It's like Mark Cuban and all these different people who are on this originally, how it just started. So I go on Twitter, and I'm wondering if anyone I know, because I know people at Sirius and all that, are on there and can send me an invite. And I start getting DMs that are like, I have an invite, but send me $50 or something. I'm like, I'm not paying to get on some app. So I'm just trying to find someone to get on here just out of curiosity. And suddenly I get an invite from a guy I haven't talked to in ages. And it is Steve Wilson, who used to run the podcast division at Apple, who I got a chance to meet with when I was at my previous podcast, who like really gave us some huge pointers. So I get on there. And I'm just blown away by how interesting it is because, you know me, I'm not a big social media guy. I'm really not. But this is way different than any of the other stuff because this is not like you posting pictures or you just writing about things. These are chat rooms where you could talk to people about different major ways to earn money, grow your business. So you could be in a chat room and suddenly you're talking to Mark Cuban. Like Mark Cuban is on there probably right now doing a conference of some sort that you could jump in there. So the cool thing is it's very much in the opening stages because there's only a few people on there. Like no one has more than, with a rare exception, no one has more than maybe 10,000 followers at the very most, at the very top. And I just see this thing being huge. I think it's very innovative. It's the first social media. It's kind of like LinkedIn because it's more business oriented. And actually, that's why I was saying earlier on the podcast that I don't do enough to introduce what we do, because Steve Wilson actually was one of the people who said that during one of the talks he was giving, in that people were asking, how do I chart on Apple Podcasts? How do I grow my show? And he said, well, if your show is starting with just an ad read for something, a lot of people are, they're not going to be interested and engaged. And as much as I know about this whole field, honestly, there's way more that I don't know. And I was like, that makes sense, man. I got to do a better job of engaging the people who are clicking on this for the first time and giving them an idea of what we do. And the other thing I'll say is, look, I am not a financial guy. I know nothing about stocks. Don't take my advice, but look, just check out the stock. I'll leave it at that. It's interesting. I see it. I see this being in the really early stages. This is going to be like people who talked about Bitcoin years ago. Maybe not that huge, but I think this is the early stages of something very big, and it piqued my interest.
Well, and I just downloaded yesterday, so I don't have a clue. And with most social media, especially those that have followed me over the years, know I'm probably the last person that gets involved with social media. I do it when I have
but I am too. I'm not like. Remember when Parler was out and all that? Yeah, I was on there, but I wasn't excited about it. There was nothing interesting about it to me. This is unlike anything else.
Well, as long as it stays nice, what's the better word for it? As long as it stays where it is more of a, to me, and honestly, with you talking about it like that, it sounds to me like something LinkedIn could have done with a chat room, and they didn't do it. So they missed their window there. So, and that's what it sounds like, a networking, but also you're getting subject matter experts, and you're getting, honestly, it sounds like for me right now, and I'm sure that's going to change because there's all about making money, but you're getting free advice from subject matter experts on how to run a business in a particular area, or like you said, the podcast stuff. You're getting free advice from, and I don't know, Steve Wilson, somebody that's in it. where, I guarantee you down the road, they're probably going to start charging for stuff like that. But right now, get it, partake in it.
If you can get on. The whole invite thing is crazy. But even if you can't get on, maybe look into the stock. Not giving anyone advice, but check it out.
What did I say? You always take what I say on my text, and I don't. You hate me if you want, guys, but no, I don't. You always take advice from a Jewish individual about finances. If you don't, you're
to be fair, though, I am not like a Jewish guy who works in Wall Street. I know nothing about finance.
Hey, that's a great segue into the Wall Street stuff that we want.
Oh that's funny. Let's talk about that.
Remind me of the what's Trading Places, dude. When I read it, I'm like, holy crap! This is the Duke and Duke. This is the Duke and Duke trying to corner the market with the Robin Hood and all that other.
With GameStop, BlackBerry, AMC, which I didn't even know BlackBerry was still a stock.
I know
BlackBerry still existed, and this stock is just surging. And it's these people on Reddit, and you turn on CNBC, and commentators are crying, and they're like, "This is doing, whether you guys agree with the politics of it or not, this is doing way more damage than what Occupy Wall Street did." Yeah. And it's a little bit more of a different – this is a little bit more libertarian, and Occupy Wall Street was a little bit more hard left.
Yeah.
But the goal is the same. These people feel like the game is rigged against them, and they're like, we're going to fix the game in our favor.
Hey.
And a lot of people are making money, but now these companies like Robinhood are saying, like, not so fast, you're manipulating the market. And these people rightfully are saying, isn't this what these Wall Street guys
exactly? Isn't what politicians do with their insider knowledge when they dump stocks right before it crashes? I mean, it's the same. To me, it's, hey, the rules are the rules, man. If Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd want to corner the market because they got the frozen concentrated orange juice inside scoop on them, and hey, let them do it. But I understand where it's coming from as causing a volatile market, because there are certain stocks that the government's never going to let fail. I mean, they can't. Like Boeing and who's another big airline producer, but Boeing's one that pops off the top of my head. But still, though, rules are rules. I don't think I'm looking at it, and I'm not a Wall Street guy either. I don't think they broke any rules. They played the system. They played the game like everybody on Wall Street does, like politicians do on a constant, regular. When you see all of a sudden them grab a stock or dump a stock when the
people on both sides of the aisle
exactly
doing it right before COVID hit.
Exactly. So, complain and whine all you want. The rules are the rules. They're set up for that, and they played the rules. And guess what? Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy beat you on this one, guys. So you can cry about all you want. You know what? Honestly, I have stocks. I have some. I'm a retirement fan. I don't put a ton into it because of shit like this. But I have it, and this could hurt my retirement by what they're doing. It could, because it could make the market so volatile that people just quit investing, or money keeps going into the companies that I'm investing in because they're putting it in somewhere else. But bottom line is they didn't break any rules. They played the game.
But did you see? So the current Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, is the one who's going to look into this. But it was found out that Janet Yellen got paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars by Robinhood to give a talk.
Shocker.
So who's she gonna favor? The little guy or Robinhood?
Believe me, and
it shouldn't be called Robinhood.
It shouldn't. It should be. It's the other way around. That's when I read Robinhood, I thought they were calling those guys Robinhood. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, but. Bro, the system is so rigged in the favor. It is. It's just like everything else within DC or big government or big money, which is big government. It's rigged in the favor of the big guy. It is. It always is. And to see guys like that, and it's awesome how they did it. I just like, man, that's crazy. Utilizing social media is outstanding, and it means that the old guys that are in the systems, all the old guys out there that are doing it the old way. You better recognize, you better get your shit together and start learning the new ways, because these kids, which we were kids once too, and we manipulated things out in our favor when we could, utilizing the system, not so much in stocks because I wasn't that smart to do it that way, but we didn't have the social media aspect either. But you better figure out the new ways of doing things, because if not, the younger generation coming up is going to, and they're going to win, because they know the social media, just like they know how to, like you said, you're already learning Clubhouse. I'm sure that would be part of that down the road, where that influences markets, just like Facebook does now or Twitter does now, which it did when it first came out. It was like, oh, this is horseshit. What is this? I can post pictures. I can post dick pics on social media. This is now it's like, holy crap.
It was originally, I mean, if people saw the social media, it was originally just like Mark Zuckerberg couldn't get a date and he wants to like learn about these girls.
It was like MySpace. That was a dating app, but that was a precursor to what Facebook went to, because let's take it to the next level.
The original was, I remember when I interviewed Adam Kokesh, who's a Marine, very controversial guy, but interesting guy, but he was saying like the original for him was Hot or Not. He's like,
Hot or Not.
With my shirt off, and people would vote Hot or Not. That was the original social media.
That. Oh my gosh! But bottom line is hey, guess you got to taste your own medicine, and politicians need that. But people, again, you got to stop thinking that there's the integrity in DC, and they're going to rationalize it. I think they think that they're going to do the right thing because they run the government. They really believe in the people, if you haven't seen that is not the case, even from when 9/11 2012 happened, when people died and they wanted to lie about it because it could have affected an election. If you haven't seen it since then, and even before that, but I'll use that as when I started to realize it, when I was working for the government. If you haven't realized it by now, this should be an eye opener. Again, hey, they're not on our side. All right, do what you have to do. Do what you have to do. Live your life also, but hey, man, if you found a way to I don't want to dick the system, but you found a way to make
legally,
illegally, and it's legal. If you're following the rules and you did it and you won the lottery, you won that trophy by the rules, so be it. You did. Guess what, old guys? I guess you're going to have to change the rules, which is what they're doing, or you're going to have to learn the new game, and see what that new game is and beat them at their new game, or maybe figure out a way to work together and make it better for everybody. But I don't know.
The one thing I don't want to see, because it's kind of weird that you're seeing people on the right who are cheering this. Like, Tucker Carlson is in favor of this. And you're seeing people on the left like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who are in favor of these people doing this. But they have a different end game, because there are going to be people who are going to say, this is why we can't have capitalism. This is why we can't have Wall Street. And that should not be the end game.
That should not be the end game.
Socialism.
Good point, man. The far left are going to say, this is not the reason why we need to have socialism. Everybody needs to make horse shit. No. This will pass. It's going to, and it has helped. That's the thing. It has helped some people. It's not like it's destroyed everybody. The people that were investing in it, who knows? Some of them may have needed that money. Maybe there was something in their lives where they needed.
The thing is, I don't know who it was, but there was some guy on MSNBC who said, he actually cursed on air. He was like, "This is bullshit. This is people who received a check from the government, and then they're throwing in
$600. What? It's like getting a quarter from my grandpa when I was a kid. What are you going to do with that quarter, son?"
Yeah, and I saw people on Twitter saying, and it's true, like, isn't this what you guys said? Like, don't waste that money, invest in something. That's exactly what they did.
But again, and now you know whose side MSNBC is on it. Again, guys, who is manipulating you? Who is it? The media and the government that manipulates everything, so you have to think a certain way. If you haven't figured it out by now, and it just kills me because you should have figured it out back even when the incident happened to us. It should at least open your eyes. But if you haven't figured it out by now, you're dumber than a bag of hammers. I tell you, and you better start recognizing that the government is not on our side. They're on their side, and they always have been, right and left. And the good ones that are there, the good politicians that used to be there, they're not there anymore because they can't affect change. So they just leave. I mean, I don't blame them, man. And even when we get veterans, you always say, hey, let's get veterans in there to help. You fall in the game. You get in the romanticism of DC and you realize you can't put a price on your integrity. And it's hard to not do that. I wish you couldn't, but people get bought off every day over there, and it's happening again, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and we got to get over to Clint Emerson, but I think a lot of it has to do with, I always say, political action committees and lobbyists, because a lot of people in there do go in there with intentions.
They do.
Well, let's say they're getting money from someone on Wall Street. They're getting money from any lobbyist group, from Big Pharma. They're going to say, hey, vote this way on this bill or we're not going to give you money. And then they have to rationalize, well, if I don't get money from them, I might not get reelected, and I can't make the change that I want to make. And then if you stick by principle, you might not be able to get reelected. The whole game is there's definitely I think until you get money entirely out of politics, which I don't know if we'll ever see, that's when things would change. Meaning no more lobbyist money, no more big union money. If we got rid of all of that, that would change things. That would shake things up.
One example. I want to make it real quick because I know we got to get Clint on. But 3 or 4 years ago, I was asked to run for Congress of my district, the Don Bacon district that he right now was 3 or 4. I think it was, hey, you should run. It would run because this was when Bacon wasn't going to decide if he was going to run. And they said, I'm not. Well, okay, I'll talk about it. And I sat down with a rep of the Koch. Remember the Koch brothers? Okay, I sat down with and I remember him talking like, "What are your feelings? Seeing what do you think about gun control? What do they got to go down that checklist? What do you think about capitalism? What do you think about it?" And it's to seek to get money from the Koch brothers. And he said, "What do you think about abortion?" And I said, I know the Bible says, if you read it, it says that thou shalt not kill. But I'm a man. I'm not going to tell a woman what to do with her body. I said it's not my decision to judge that person. They will be judged when they pass. But I know what my wife went through carrying those children. I know how I don't have a clue what that is like. So I said, I'm not going to say that, yes, I'm for anti-abortion. But I know what I believe. I know what I feel, but I am not going to tell a woman what to do with her body because I'm not a woman. I don't know what that feeling is. And he just point blank, he looked at me and goes, "You just lost $2 million. It's like, what do you mean? He goes, "You just lost donation money." I said, "So is that what it's about? Donation money and not what I believe?" I said, "This isn't for me." And I walked out. And that's, again, seeing the curtain pulled back again, even more. Wizard of Oz, I'm seeing Toto pull that curtain back. It left me again with another lasting impression of what politics are. And that's why I hate it. That's why we don't get into the left, right. They're both jacks.
No, and if we do it, try to do it in a introspective, rational way. Definitely don't get angry about it. I mean, there's no reason to.
No reason to.
I do like the fact that before we have to get to Clint Emerson, you have to bring up like the most controversial topic of all time because you just pissed off half the audience.
Well,
you know you did.
And that's the thing. It's a personal experience. That's one thing that we try to do too. Is that it's an experience. If I've had a personal experience, I'm going to tell you, and this is what happened. You view it how you want. It's honest. It's raw. That's how it is. It's not like I saw this on a TV show and this is what they did and this is what it was on with Netflix. This happened to me. This is the experience. Maybe it was an individual experience and it's not a big experience over the whole group, but this was my experience. And take it as it may. And I'm not partisan. I'm not registered on either side. And we've gone over that before. But we'll get it. Let's do another podcast where we've actually hit on that before because we got to get to Clint. And
we do. So I just texted him to tell him we're wrapping up our intro. But before we get to Clint, another company that has been with us since pretty much day one, guys. If you're a shooter out there. We always say guys, gender neutral.
Yeah, that is a gender neutral term. Guys is a gender neutral term. Look at it in the encyclopedia of Tonto and Ian's Battleline Podcast. We'll be having out soon, publishing soon.
So, if you're a shooter, you are going to love Fort Scott Munitions. They really are the best out there. Multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military grade ammunition design. And it was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states, as well as direct online through fortscottmunitions.com, FORTSCOTTMUNITIONS.com. If you go to any of the Battleline tactical courses, like the one coming up February 20th through the 21st.
Correct. Yep. Got some slots Florida. Still. We have 10 now. 10. So
sign up. They'll be shooting with Fort Scott Munitions. That's what you guys
actually.
use.
I was mistaken. We can shoot paper there with Fort Scott munitions. We can't shoot the steel. So you're good, guys.
Okay.
So if you're holding up because you got to have frangible ammunition, I was incorrect. We are okay with standard ammunition and especially Fort Scott. We just can't shoot steel, which I generally don't shoot a lot of steel anyway because it's too damn easy. You want to get your grooves tied. You got to shoot paper. Get those dots, not torture. No steel. That's too easy.
Yeah, so check them out, though, guys. FortScottMunitions.com. The link is in the description. Use the exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the Battleline podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline podcast. So joining us for the first time on Battleline Podcast, Clint Emerson, who, it's crazy, man, I was thinking about it, who I've probably known for like 8 years or something now, pretty much since the first 100 Deadly Skills.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and now this thing has become a book series. You do a calendar, You've had activity books and a TV show. So like this thing is just catching on like crazy. And the latest of which is 100 Deadly Skills Combat Edition, which just came out last week. And the difference between this is that you could scan the codes in the book and get video demonstrations of the deadly skills. So this thing is just, I've seen how big it's grown in all these years, and as well as Violent Nomad, your clothing line and EDC line, you're just doing big things. And I'm glad to see it, man, because you were just a quality guy, man. Every time I've gotten the chance to hang out with you, I could say Clint is top notch.
And I'm not ignoring you, dude. I'm checking. I haven't checked out your IG page in a while, so I'm checking out what's new on there. Yeah. I'm doing my due diligence during the show. Okay.
Yeah, I got you. I know how it goes, man. I appreciate it. Any like, view, share, I always say thanks. But yeah, thank you, Ian. It's good seeing you. It's been a while. I appreciate you guys having me on here. And yes, Combat Edition literally came out, I think, 2 days ago. And it was probably the best project so far because of the guys that are involved. Instead of me providing skills, I went to a bunch of experts in the industry. And
guys that we've had on, I should throw out there, Rich Graham, Pat McNamara, and I by the way, I didn't say this in the intro to give your background, which we'll get into, but I mean, Clint was Navy SEAL in SEAL Team 6 and contracting work as well, right?
There was a short stint of that stuff for the agencies doing wazoo stuff for them, but I didn't really. I kind of did it. I was thinking, I'll maintain my clearances. And then I was like, I don't care about my clearances. And I just moved on in my own direction and told that world to take a hike.
When you start, and that's what I'm looking at everything, because I know on my old account, we follow each other. And then I kind of went on hiatus and then picked it back up again last year. But I know prior, with the stuff you were doing, how did it, because you're one of the early guys that transitioned from doing operations, being an operator into, I don't want to say I hate saying influencer. I hate saying public figure. I feel like a douchebag when I call myself that. I just don't like saying it. But you moved into that world of and almost branding and merchandising. You're one, from what I remember, you're one of the original guys that did that. Was it something that you plan on doing, or was it just like with me, it just kind of happens and you go with it because, hey, all right, let's, if we're going to get into it, let's do it 110% and do it the best that we can and get the best product out there. I guess I want to know, guys do ask me, how do I get into that? I said, well, I didn't get into it. It just kind of found me. I was going to say it got into me, but that sounded a little weird. I didn't want to say it that way. So, what was your experience going there? Because again, you were one of the original guys where it really did happen that way, where you just, holy crap, I'm out here preaching and showing guys what to do.
Yeah, same. I have pretty much the same answer. I don't think I was one of the originals because I've still got a lot of guys that I watch where I go, oh, okay, that. I mean, I think we're all kind of watching each other and seeing what good tricks and tips we can pick up.
Yeah, of course.
Whether it's like how to use social media to your benefit or, or even when you get into merchandising and how other guys are pushing all their brands. But when I was transitioning and it was time to retire, I had a buddy of mine, an older guy, his name is Keith Melton, and he hit me up and said, hey, let's do a book together. And I was like, oh no, I'm not doing that. And he kind of talked me into it, and that's where 100 Deadly Skills manifested from. And it was supposed to be me and him both doing it, but he ended up getting a back injury. And so it left, he was like, hey, you're on your own. I was like, wait a minute, what? I don't know how to write. Meanwhile, he'd already written a bunch. He'd already written like 40 of them. And he's an older guy. We're talking Vietnam Naval Academy guy, right?
So was he a plank owner? Was he one of the original?
No, he wasn't a SEAL.
Okay.
He's just an expert in espionage and spying. I met him when I was at the NSA. Great guy, wealth of knowledge. Anyway, he was going to guide me down this path of putting a book together when I finally agreed to it. And then I ended up doing it all on my own. And then ever since, I kind of really started enjoying just the project of it all, where I went and got an illustrator, and then you put together the narratives, and then you start figuring out all the skills that you're going to put in there that you think the average person would benefit from. And like Ian said, it just kind of grew ahead on it. And then people were like, hey, when are you, because in the book, I don't refer, hey, Navy SEALs do this. I can't stand that stuff. So I put, the violent nomad does this. The violent nomad does that. And the violent nomad really is a person who is self-reliant, self-rescue orientated, and uses violence for good, not evil. And so, and the nomad part means, hey, you're on your own. You can do whatever you need to do in order to survive, and it's a lifestyle. So putting it all together, people were like, hey, is there any Violent Nomad t-shirts? And I'm like, no, but I guess I'll make one.
Yeah.
And the shirts I have a Violent Nomad shirt. I have the G.I. Joe one. Like,
oh, yeah.
There are a lot of guys, as Chris has said, with clothing lines. Like, yours always have really unique, just cool looking designs. That's why I bought it with my own money. I was like, this is, and plus I like supporting Clint. So I still wear that all the time. No, for sure, man. And I want to get more into it because you went a totally different route than a lot of guys. You did not write a memoir. You didn't write about your time in the SEALs. If people are into comic books and they're into survival, that's what you put together. You kind of put those two worlds together and made a comic book with deadly skills.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I want to get into your actual background because I think you have a super interesting background with growing up in Saudi Arabia. And you've been very vocal that you hate the government there, hating the culture over there.
Yeah.
Made you say, I want to get into the military and become an operator.
Yes. So, I mean, the short story to that is when you grow up in like really the most extreme, or radical Islamic state, as a kid, there were benefits to it. You got really good at troublemaking because you're messing with, the locals and, trying to see what you can get away with, which was completely dumb in retrospect, because knowing that the repercussions that would have come down on my dad if I got caught, because the man is always responsible for everything in the home. So if I would have gotten in trouble or got caught doing half the crap I did, my dad would have paid the ultimate consequence. So, but during that time, you see how they treat people, you see how they treat women. There were times when, even me and my buddies, you're talking 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids getting jumped by grown men just because we were Westerners. So it certainly left a bad taste in my mouth, and, grew up saying the whole, like, I'm going to come back and kill these people someday, but you grow up and then you realize, okay, maturity kicks in and you go, that's their culture. That's how they do things. That's what they know. That's what they do. It's okay as long as it doesn't influence me, my culture, my world, as long as we in America stay the way we are and we're not influenced by that, then everything's fine. And I think, obviously we do a good job of that, but you grow up and you realize that, there's differences all over the planet, and you don't have to necessarily accept them. You just got to know that, the differences between the twos and the pros and cons, and make an educated decision based on, that. But that was what I experienced. So of course it left that passion to come back someday. And I always tell people, imagine a kid growing up in Iraq or Afghanistan these days, or any countries where tanks with American flags have been rolling on them, what passion they're given at that moment in time when a building is knocked down, blown up, their dad dies, their uncle dies. It's kind of like it's creating a bunch of little Clints, but the difference is they don't have any opportunity, right? I could have gone and been we can be lawyers, we can be doctors, we can do whatever we want in this country. Over there, though, if they're a bunch of little Clints, it's kind of scary because now you're creating your future enemies. And it's not like they can just go easily get educations or become a doctor or become an attorney or anything like that. Sometimes they have no choice but to go, the evil route. So it's kind of it's a double-edged sword. Every time we go try to do something for good, there's always a consequence of that 8-year-old kid who's influenced by your actions in a negative manner that grows up hating you and saying to themselves, I just want to kill Americans when I grow up. And so that's really the ultimate lesson learned, growing up over there, growing up and doing what I did. And then you reflect on,
Are we seeding sowing our own seed? Are we, is that what we're doing when we go there? And I agree with you. I honestly do. You go over there and we're fighting, and I 10 years, 11 years I spent over, and I never worked Saudi, never did. I just always it was one of the stands or North Africa, but it was, especially in the earlys in 2003, 2004, when we first started contracting, we had a lot of loose cannons, and you all it would take is one stray bullet, or I say stray, some of the guys, or something to happen to a father or a grandfather and all of a sudden you've martyred that person. And guess what? We've made our future enemies for the next 20 some years. Is where do we stop? And that's why I enjoyed the job. I enjoyed working, and I know you did too. But there are points where do we really need to be? Why are we trying to change people how we are? And you said it perfectly. Sometimes you just can't.
Yeah.
Countries, you can't. Just do what we need to do and then get the hell out and or just don't go in at all. If that's the case, I think sometimes we have to. But I agree with you, man. I think we made a lot of our future enemies back 20 years ago because we stayed and we killed people. Sometimes it was necessary. Sometimes it was collateral damage. But in the end, it doesn't matter to the people on the ground, especially the kids that are seeing those and seeing the people that are what they're thinking are being martyred. And now we're bringing another generation of fighters. And you're right. That's all they do. And they're good at it. That's what they do. They fight. There's no other option. And they get paid. And if the opium's good, they get paid a lot. So
right. Yeah. And that takes care of the families. And that's their number one objective, just like all of us. Agreed. Yeah, it's a dilemma, but I also think that's where it shows how important special operations is, because, special operations done correctly it's not going to influence, a whole bunch of kids in one run. Now, conventional forces is where we lose, right? Because now, like I said, you got a tank and you got buildings, getting blown up or whatever. That's where, if you pull back on that, you increase special operations, then you figure out how to win the hearts and minds of kids, knowing that they're going to grow up and you want them to like us, not hate us. Then you've just solved most of our problems, but I don't know if anybody's, figured that out yet.
I don't know how, if it would be, it could you. I mean, if I saw a SWAT team come and demo my house or if my 16-year-old did, or my 5-year-old, I'm sure it doesn't matter if they were U.S. SWAT or not. They're going to have a view on cops for the rest of their lives, a pissed off view, because
right.
It's human nature. So, bro, I don't know if there is a way. I really don't. Special ops are extremely important because you're right. They don't do you're not coming down and mowing down and carpet bombing cities and creating, but to win the hearts and minds, I don't know if that's possible. I think you do a few, especially if you implement them as part of our ops, where you use locals as interpreters. And I had a great team in Kandahar. A lot of those guys were, I still would say, were friends. But that wasn't the norm. It wasn't. They helped us. They fought alongside us. We ate with them, even though I still have a hard time eating with my hands and sitting in those circles, eating the hummus. But I never caught the COVID either doing that. I'm just putting that out there. I never eating with my, not washing anything. But that's not the norm. So I don't know, bro. But your books and your things, and I watch you, and I watch your training. I try to learn from watching guys. Instagram's great to watch guys do certain things, like, okay, he's doing it that way. Maybe I'll try it that way. But, that mindset you have is how we should all have a mindset. And I hope people overseas are looking at that mindset as well. Learning, hey, be violent. We need to be violent, but don't go overboard. and become a bully because that's not how it's done. And then you're just making future enemies. So you just was a bully to this kid here. Well, guess what? His 10 friends are now your enemy. So did you really succeed doing anything besides feeding your ego a little bit? Yeah. And it comes across. I think it comes across in your stuff when I look at it. Yeah. And I do. It's good for me to look at it and get the influence of somebody that's been doing a lot longer than me.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it. It's the goal is ensuring that, hey, be deadly in spirit, but follow the laws of the land and be kind to the people next to you. And if someone, deadly comes around the corner, then of course you got to switch from spirit to reality in a split second and do what's right in order to win, live another day. But
well said.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. So yeah, thank you.
All right, hey, show's done. All right, we got it. Let's it's a wrap.
I was going to say the thing with your book is, so I recently got to narrate Jim West's book, our friend who we've had on, former Green Beret, and he has the same mindset as you in that his book is deadly skills. His book is that if you are in a situation where you need to kill someone, there is not a fair fight. So he talks about eye gouging. He talks about all different types of things that you're not going to see in your typical karate course. I'm wondering with your book, post SEALs, post contracting, anything like that, putting out the book, you're a guy who blends in really well. I mean, I've seen you like with a sport coat on at Sirius, and I would think you're like a stockbroker. So I don't know. I would think you like work on Wall Street. I wouldn't know you were a SEAL. You're not someone who goes out looking for trouble. So I'm wondering, have you ever had to use any of those skills other than while you've been serving somewhere?
Well, other than service, I mean, in book one, where you talk about, maybe getting into vehicles and stuff like that. Like I literally just helped my neighbor the other day get into their vehicle. And I just happened to have some of my old little tools sitting around and, and as cars get more and more advanced, they become more and more difficult to get into. So, but
maybe we're just getting older, dude, or we're just breaking down where it's not working.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, some of that stuff does come in handy from time to time. And that's why I put those skills in like book 1, 2, and now 3 is that I feel like they're evergreen, right? Those are the skills that you potentially will need, for the long haul. And none of them rely on any technology that could change tomorrow. It's all kind of old school MacGyver, Martha Stewart type stuff that anyone can do. You can read these books sitting on your toilet and go straight from the toilet to the kitchen and put these things together.
But you got to wash your hands first. That's still a rule. Well, after you go from the toilet to the kitchen. Well, talking about that and do you think because I'm glad you haven't had to use a lot of skills. I don't think a lot of guys do ever really want to have to use a lot of the skills. It's a last case scenario, but the reason being is because also you don't make yourself a hard target. You don't present yourself as a hard target. So those skills that you learn give that and correct me if I'm wrong, give you that self-confidence that somebody that's out there that's looking to start something will see you as, this guy, he's holding himself different. I'm not going to mess with him. I'm going to mess with this guy. This guy's head down as a cell phone, his pants down to his ankles, and he looks like an easier target. But that's part of it to me. It's not just the skills itself. It gives you that confidence, that outward appearance that, hey, don't just leave me alone. Don't mess with me.
No,
I wonder if you have that same if you agree with that or not.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think most people don't realize that our communication is 60% body language, right? And you can tell whether you're purposely reading body language or not, you're going to get a feeling of whether or not somebody is trained or untrained, right? So that's number one. So your projection and demeanor management means a lot. So I tell people all the time on the personal awareness side, look in the mirror before you walk out the door, right? And make sure that you're not wearing anything offensive or something that's, could target you. Don't do it.
It is. Be nondescript.
And for the audience, because we just have the audio, Clint is pointing to the American flag.
And then the violent nomad on his shirt. But hey, but that's
I always say it. I know I've said it to you before, Clint. The American flag tattoo is one of the best looking tattoos I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
It's so well done.
He did a good job. But yeah, do as I say, don't do as I do, really. But so body language is important. I think you're dead on, but even more important that you pointed out. And if you like all the guys that are in Combat Edition, I asked them all the same question, which, you know the answer already. Are you going out actively picking fights? No. Why? And it's usually going to be the big mouth, untrained, belligerent idiot who is going to go and just pick on people, right? A trained person doesn't do that because they know that you never underestimate the person that you're standing toe to toe with. So it's like we avoid it at all costs because you've naturally been trained through your career, especially when you go through the new guy process. There's always somebody smarter, faster, bigger, stronger,
yep.
can kick your ass. And so it's humbling, right? So all these guys, super humble. They all said the same thing. You always try to de-escalate first. Hey, I don't want any trouble. If you can get off the X, then you should by, finding that exit route and taking it as quickly as possible. And then if all else fails, then by all means, defend yourself and meet violence with violence so that you can move on with your life, right? So, yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying.
And that's perfectly said. You learn the force escalation continuum when you're in, and then as you're a civilian, it turns into that de-escalation. But to me, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Hey, what do we do? Or do we need to bring it down so we can get off the X? But when you become that civilian out there, you do realize, and you see it. And hanging around little gangsters when I was growing up, it doesn't take much for a 10-year-old that has a gun to get the drop on you. And that's all it takes. So why try to get into that situation? Have the personal awareness, the visual acuity, the situational awareness to stay out of those situations and be much better off. You don't want to put yourself in danger. But if you are, go train with Clint and learn how to kick somebody's ass. But that's only if you got to turn that light switch on.
Right.
Keep it off. Keep it. So, no, well said. And that is the same with every person that I've been luckily and blessed to get trained by, that has taught me, or that I've had a mentorship with, or they've mentored me. Is that it's always the same thing. Don't go looking for the shit. Don't go starting this stuff. It doesn't do anybody any good. And most of the time, guys don't go looking for fights like yourself or anybody else. It's because you have the confidence that there's no insecurity. I don't need to prove myself to anybody. I'm good.
Right.
Happier life. No, well said. Well said. I know I just reiterated what you said in a longer fashion. That's just what I do. Sorry about that, man. But my question is, and I'm a big comic book guy. So when I saw the book and it was like a graphic novel, I wonder if so I wanted to ask, it's just a personal question. Did you grow up? I grew up on comic books. I mean, I wish I would have kept all of them. Is that what came into it? Like, I'm going to make this like a graphic novel because the pictures, they just grab you. And they're more enjoyable to read than just something on black and white piece of paper. And if that's the route you went because of that. And do you think it's had a real, I think it has, but your opinion, has it had an effect on sales, people getting it, more interest in it because you've got pictures of comic book pictures, which especially Rangers and SEALs, I know, and Marines especially, we like looking at those comic book pictures, man. Or was that a decision somebody else made?
No, that was definitely a big part of the branding, and yes. So going back, growing up with DC, Marvel comics, no doubt about it. At the height in the 80s, you had these things all over the place. I did. And growing up in Saudi, I got comic books, but it would take 3 months to get it because they would sit at customs. And then those guys would take a black Sharpie and mark out anything they didn't like on every single page before you got it, right?
Wow. I didn't know that.
But it's, anyway, yes. I mean, I always enjoyed DC, Marvel, superheroes, villains, all that stuff. So having that concept put into anything I did, I just enjoyed the creativity behind it. If I could draw that well, I definitely would have done it myself. But I went out and got, a great illustrator for the first 2 books, and then bumped it up a notch with getting Tom Mandrake for Combat Edition.
Oh, wow.
Tom is a DC Marvel guy. He's done Superman versus Batman. He's the guy who created Swamp Thing.
Yep.
I mean, so he's like a big name in the comic world. When you go to Comic-Con, people are standing in line to get his autograph on whatever he drew. But an incredible artist, good dude. And to have him part of Combat Edition, I mean, just took it to the next level, because when you look at those illustrations, and I've got books coming your way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we scheduled this right when the book came out. I have like 3 or 4 copies, and so I've got a big box.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. I am.
Yeah, so I've got a big box coming. I'll send you guys some, but you can do giveaways or whatever you want to do. I'll send you.
Wow, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
But yeah, when you look, he drew Dom Rosso, Pat McNamara. He drew them exactly the way they look. And then each of my good guys are up against a famous bad guy. So you've got Hitler,
yeah,
Assad in Syria, you've got Kim Jong in North Korea, all of them getting their asses kicked.
That's so cool.
All of these great, badasses. So, and when you read, it makes the book even that much more entertaining, because it's people you recognize. You got Epstein having knives thrown at him. You can't beat that.
I love it.
Oh, that's tremendous. No, I do. I want people to go. I just wish bookstores and things were open, where they just could go peruse some of that stuff. And
the Barnes and Noble near me is. So, I mean, hopefully people see it on shelves there.
2 of ours shut down, man. They're gone. They're out of business. I mean,
I did want to say one thing that I found interesting, and I think I mentioned it on a prior podcast. We were talking about you at some point. You and Chris, beyond just what you were saying about de-escalating and all that, have a pretty similar style to your training, in that I know Chris's tactical courses are very cardio heavy. And in your book, you have that run, fight, run thing, where it's, you want to get people out of breath and then engage in a fight and get them out of breath even more, so that they're as prepared as possible. And both you guys have that same philosophy.
And honestly, I didn't know if that would transition in the civilian world. So I didn't know. I looked what you did. I'll be honest. I said, I wonder if let's look at Clinton. If he's pushing people, will they respond to it, or are they not wanting to come to get their asses smoked? I mean, that worked. The cardio stuff, when you're going through vetting courses or specs, that's part of it. Mm-hmm. But I was like, man, I don't know if we should go to that route with civilians. Are they going to want to do it? And I found, walking at yours, honestly, the ones that are serious, they dig it and they want to feel that way, because I think some of them do feel they've missed out on a chance to go into Rangers or SEALs or so forth. So it's their way, for at least for a week or 2 days, to get pushed to the level, and they feel like, a football player at the end of a game that's won and just spent, like, man, I completed something. So yeah, I got mine from validating from you. This is why I started to ratchet up a little bit. So what did you find out at the beginning, though, when you first started it? Did you think they were going to have a response to it with civilians, or did you think, man, I may be going on a limb? Are these people really going to pay me money for me to have them sweating their balls off for 48 hours?
Yeah. Well, first, I don't do any training courses. I've always been asked, but I haven't done that yet. I was going to set something up starting this year, but COVID kind of got in the way. But what I have always pushed, whether it's in the books or on social, is what Ian referred to as the violent nomad workout. And it's push, pull, rotate, sprint. And on the rotation, most of the time I tell people do some kind of strikes, whether it's kicks or punches or a hanging heavy bag or a down heavy bag. But make sure that's part of your rotational type, workout, or part of the rotation portion of your workout. And so you can pick any push exercise, any pull exercise, rotation, and then sprint. And so you're going to do those 5 times for max. And then you're just going to keep going, no break until you're done. And the point being is if you've ever been in any kind of conflict, you know that where there's one, there's many, and you always have to think that way. And so also, if you're going up in a multi-threat environment, then you know that you have to be a Spartan in mindset, knowing that, okay, if there's only 300 Spartans and they're going up against thousands, they create a funnel so that it becomes more of a one-on-one fight. And as long as you can always maintain the one-on-one, then you're never really having to fight everybody at the same time. And so the intent is if you've got the heart and the lungs to be able to stack your bad guys, always making sure there's a bad guy between me and the next one, then it's always going to be a one-on-one fight. And then the goal is to eliminate that threat as soon as possible so that you can move on to the next and then the next and the next. But even though you got that strategy in your mind and you might read about it in the book, If you don't have the heart and the lungs, then you'll never be able to actually pull it off because you'll be exhausted after the first fight. And now you got 3 more left. Where this also becomes more realistically important is if it's a house fire, natural disaster, anything that you could potentially face out there, you got to be able to have the strength to get yourself out of that situation. Then you got to have the lungs in order to get yourself away from
the situation.
And people kind of forget about that piece. Is it takes both heart, lungs and that strength. And so I feel like that Violent Nomad workout, at least at a minimum, forces them to do a push, a pull, big, these are big movements, right? Because when you're under stress, your fine motor skills sometimes don't work. And so you want the big grabs, the big pushes, the big pulls. And that will work under stress when adrenaline's flowing. And so, that's kind of the down and dirty.
And that's where looking at reading the Run, Fight, Run, my take of it when I was reading it was, well, okay, stress, you got to have stress, but it can't be replicated by anything other than getting your heart rate up. Unless somebody's shooting at you, which you can't do that. And I mean, I guess you could at a range, but it'd be illegal. But running, getting the heart rates up, and then transitioning and the gross motor, we're moving. And then at the end, getting them towards the end. And I did. I pulled some of this. The mentality, reading some of your stuff, and then some of the stuff I'd done at a range battalion and then with GRS as an instructor as well, is that at the end, doing a fine motor skill, having them do a concealed draw and trying to hit a 6-inch plate after running 200 meters and doing stress fires all the way, or run downs all the way down. Now, all right, you have 10 seconds, hit all these plates, and it's hard for me. And I'm not a great shooter. I'm okay. I'm a good teacher. I do as I tell you, don't do as I do, or you'll miss. But how difficult it is to hit those plates when the heart rate's going crazy. And I'm like, now think of it. You just did one. You did a 200-meter run. Think as if you had to do this all night or all day. You have to have that endurance up. And I said, that blue box of death will never replicate. The little pro shot timer will never replicate the endurance or the heart rate that you have to do with the up and down breathing just to focus on your front sights that you get by just getting smoked. And, that's where we throw combatives in there as well, because that is huge. Hitting a heavy bag, you do 2-3 minute rounds. I think that's easy. It's not. You're smoked.
3 minutes is forever. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's where it's just looking at it going, well, if he's teaching it, and I saw other instructors out there doing some rundowns every once in a while as well. I said, if they're doing, I think we can do it. Let's put it in there and we'll see how it goes. And honestly, it's been successful, and I'm glad and they're also more fun for me to teach because I like getting out there and working with them as well. And it helps me. You always have to sharpen that knife, and it helps me as well. So kudos to you for giving me some confidence when I read it. Like, well, fuck. Okay. Well, okay. He's doing it. Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. If not, I can go on the podcast without Clint on and just say it's Clint's fault. That's Clint's fault. I screwed. I was just watching his Instagram pages, but no, it's well said. And I completely agree with you. And I know, just from my own personal experiences, that with that heart rate going crazy, it's you have to focus on those fine motor skills because they're not easy, and then it becomes habitual fine motor skills, and it's just habit forming movements, and then you're off and running, and you're just being a robot the rest of the night and eating on Snickers bars and drinking water until the cavalry comes.
Yeah,
I admire it. No, I appreciate it. Now, very well said. And I think people need to still read that and adhere to that and train that way as you're having your books and as you train. I mean, do what you do because it's going to help you in the long run. So
yeah. I think everybody gets a little something. It doesn't take up too much time in your day to pull off a workout like that.
Yeah, it's outstanding.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about. We spoke about it really early on, the 100 Deadly Skills TV show that's going to have guys we've had on the show like Pat McNamara, like Rich Graham, and I'm sure another. Series of people that I'm probably familiar with. From the trailer, it looks fucking awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah. How did you get into that, Ron? What did happen, and how's it going so far? Just give us an update.
Yeah. So once again, it was unintentional. When I went around the country in May, I took a camera guy with me, and the goal was to collect research for the book, get 5 to 10 skills from each of the guys that I went to visit, and then during that, I knew, okay, I'm going to film everything so that I have that information to use so that there's a video, link in the book, so that everyone can learn from these experts. Well, once we got back, we had 7 terabytes, right, of video. And, so I was like, I wonder if we can put this into a show. So I started talking to the guys on the post-edit side, seeing if they thought that there was enough there. They said, yeah. And I said, all right. Well, then initially I reached out to one of my buddies that works at a studio in LA, and they kind of sat on it. They were like, yeah, I think we can do this, but we'd like to reshoot everything with our own content. I was like, no, not doing that again. Because there's no way these 16 guys would agree to another sit down like that, and kind of like fake it, the second time.
Yeah, you can never recreate that. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, and the footage was awesome. I had a Netflix kid with me, and he had a ton of experience on feature films, and he was very like, he was kind of like the Swiss Army knife of a Hollywood set. The guy knew audio, he knew video, he knew lighting, he knew angles. I mean, he did a dozen jobs, for me every day that we stopped at a new location. So you couldn't ask for better. And he was a drone pilot. And,
Oh, wow.
So he was really well-rounded. And so we took all the footage, and I went to Warrior Poet Society, John Lovell. At that point, he was just standing up his own streaming network. And he's a former Ranger, great guy, has this huge following on YouTube. He's taken that following and said, you know what? The algorithms are shutting down guns and God and all these things on YouTube. So I'm going to go stand up my own streaming network. And the Warrior Poet Society network is downloadable from Amazon, any of your major streamers. You just download it like a channel, like ESPN or Fox News or CNN, whatever your flavor is. You can download Warrior Poet the same way. And then that's where the show is. So we ended up giving them 13 episodes. Each episode's roughly 30 minutes, and they turned out to be really good. It's one of the top shows on his network. And it's definitely worth checking out because the interview portion with these guys is was the most valuable piece. Yeah, learning how to throw a jab from a professional boxer or learning how to throw a throwing star from the first American Ninja, that's cool. But hearing their story and their thought process as it relates to that warrior path or how they got to where they're at, like Pat's interview, I mean, without a doubt, if people knew when he was a kid that he was raised by his neighbor who happened to be like a Hell's Angel and taught him how to fight from the get-go.
Yeah,
I could imagine.
That's a great story. Not to mention, like how many – that's not going to happen anymore. You can't have kids growing up like that anymore. And then he went on. And then he went on to be, a sergeant major in the Army and worked obviously to the tier 1 level and is just an accomplished, great guy. But to hear the background piece was the coolest part, and that's certainly what you get out of the show. On top of learning some pretty cool skills from these great fighters.
Well, you got to get on there besides Chris, of course. Great guys. And I think Chris would agree with me on this one, and I think you've met him, Jim West.
Yeah, I need to get Jim on there.
All right.
Yeah.
Jim would be awesome on there, man, because his interview would be amazing in the fact that he's a guy who grew up getting into bar fights every single night, and then his son is violently murdered.
Yeah.
And Jim basically went into hiding, and he stopped talking to people, shut himself off from the outside world. And in more recent years, due to friends of ours like Jack Murphy, who kind of reconnected with him, he's gotten back into kind of this world of writing books and training people. And he wants to train fighters again. I mean, I know he trained a UFC fighter. He's trained boxers before. And the fact is also, if you saw Jim on the street, he's a guy in his mid-60s with a little bit of a beer gut going on, but he will fucking kill you. I mean, he is as badass as it gets.
Yeah, I'll put him on there and see if he's interested. Along with
he would do it. He would definitely do it.
Tonto.
This wasn't a plug for believe me. Believe me, I am a reluctant public figure. As much as I see myself enjoying all this stuff, yeah, it damn near killed me 30 years ago. It just wasn't made for it. I had to figure it out.
I think you just doing a deadly skill. I think it's totally your wheelhouse, and that's what it is, man. It's not a Fox News appearance.
Oh no, that's different. No more news ever. But to me, that's a good segue into because your story. I mean, we've got some time left, and we do get into faith. I'm a Christian. I said people know I'm probably the most potty mouth Christian you'll ever meet, but I am. And faith and how faith helped me get through situations. And I know people, and there's veterans out there that listen to this, and people in the military that listen to this that are going through hard times. But what obstacles did you go through to reach your goal of just to become a SEAL? But then also, when you became, after you got out and you got into this public figure world, did you run into any of those obstacles just adjusting to that sort of lifestyle? And did faith take any part in that as well as helping you get through? And has it continued in your life at all?
Well, I mean, to start from the beginning, transitioning out, I think it can be as big of an obstacle as you make it. I feel like, you always hear about having a 5-year plan. I think it's really important for guys in the military to think that way. That's what I did. If you're planning on doing 20 years plus like me, then you better at the 15-year mark start going, all right, what am I doing when I get out? And even though that original plan, what it is today, is totally different, but at least it gave me a path that of tasks and goals so that when the transition came, it would come a little easier. I think everyone's still going to have moments when they, I definitely have had mine where I'm like, fuck all this stuff. Like I don't, it's probably every other day actually. I'm like, whether it's the public side of it, which I'm like you, I don't care much for it, but it's a necessary evil.
It's necessary evil. You have to.
And, the self-promotion side, I can't stand. That's when I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go around promote other guys instead of promoting myself. It's a lot easier.
No, that's right. It is.
So, and that's kind of what obviously that's what I've been doing now, especially for the past year, putting this project together. But, I think every guy they need to have a plan, regardless of whether they think that plan's going to be their long haul, because, we all evolve. You have to be willing to let your plan evolve. If the times are, telling you to go one way, even though you don't want to, sometimes you got to just adapt to it and roll with it. Especially, if you're just trying to live each day and put food on the table. I tell people all the time, I was one of those guys that sat in the squadron space, seeing some talking team guy on Fox News going, that motherfucker, right? And then and then look, I get out and I have become exactly what I used to badmouth. And
I'm following you, but we're like, I'm like your shadow, right? The mirror fucking him is like, God, I'm becoming exactly what I always said was a complete douchebag, and I'm become that person. No, I keep going. I love that. It's actually, this is helping. This is helping me.
But I think what the common denominator is with this lifestyle, and then in this growing up in the special operations world, is that most of the competition in the special operations world is with yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you got guys around you, but at the end of the day, you carry all the weight, all that success, all that failure ultimately resides on you. And if there's one place where that is constantly reminded, is in the spec ops world. Because if it's your fault, it's your fault.
Yep.
There's no way you can avoid it. If you're the one that screwed that whole thing up, everyone around you is going to let you know. And so when you're out here, it's like, okay, I'm putting these tasks on myself, and now I need each and every one of them to be as successful as possible, because failure is not an option. And so what happens is, if it's writing or business or entrepreneurship in any way, the funny part about it is you're going to get attention, whether it's media, people. And so that attention immediately turns in to the one thing you were motherfucking when you were sitting in the squadron space, right? But it ultimately goes back to just our level of desire just to be successful at every little thing we do. Yeah. So it's like, once again, it's another double-edged sword of one side is you're doing great things for your own personal tasks, your own personal ventures. But on the other side, you've got peers and other people that, judge and grade you based on that as well.
And with social media, it's even easier for I say peers, but your trolls to to say things, and it's hard to pull yourself away from that. I had to learn how to stop looking at those stupid comments, stop looking at that stuff. You're always going to have somebody that doesn't like you out there. It's just part of it. But being successful, it comes with being successful, at least being successful, happy in your life. And that's one thing with me. Success doesn't always mean money. It just I wasn't happy. Now I'm happy again, so I'm successful again. And sometimes people don't like that. But you don't want to poo-poo it and get in a fight over social media, because that does bring yourself down as an individual, and you have to rise above it. I had to learn the hard way how to rise above it. You're spot on though. It does. It's yin and yang. It comes together, and you have to either accept it or you just don't do it. And but yeah, very well said. I admire that. Was there any obstacle, whether in or out, that took you, a step back where you really had to fight through it? And what did you do to fight through it, bro?
On my way out, there was a big obstacle. So, it's an interesting story that I'll just give you the Cliff Notes version is.
Yeah, we got time, man. Because I want to hear it. So.
On my way out, towards the end of my career, a book called, No Easy Day came out.
Yeah.
And it was the first book kind of laying out the Bin Laden operation. And for those of us that were still inside the fence line at the time, it impacted us. They couldn't really do so much to the author. They were trying to, by saying, hey, there's classified information in this book, and then they just ran them through the ringer. Meanwhile, while that was going on, they were, pulling tridents and boarding a whole bunch of us that had anything extracurricular going on.
Wow, I didn't know that.
There was about 20 of us that got pulled aside, or 21. I was 20, Mr. 21 probably, and they wanted to just destroy all of us and set an example to the community of, hey, you're not going to get out and do any of that kind of stuff.
Even though it was all over the news, even though DC was throwing everything in their mother out there, showing drone footage, throwing classified. There's
the hypocrisy of how politicians leverage information and don't get in trouble. And then you got the guys that get out and have information and they get in trouble. So yes.
Are you able to say what you were working on at the time?
Well, I had just basically put in the paperwork to start my crisis management company called Escape the Wolf. Okay. Escape the Wolf is all about going to corporations and giving them, good best practices as it relates to the big five: natural disaster, man-made events, medical, cyber, and safe travel abroad. But I was putting in my retirement paperwork. I would put in I was the only guy though that put in this one form that basically says, respectfully request permission for outside sources of income. And in the military, you have to have permission to collect outside forms of income because you hold a clearance. And so they just want to make sure you're not getting influenced. So they just make you list, okay, what is it? Well, keep in mind, all I was doing was building a business. I wasn't making money yet. But I went ahead and filled out that form upon recommendation of the only Army guy in our fence line. Said, Clint, it's probably a good idea you fill out the paperwork because the Navy, we suck at paperwork.
That's a whole. We'll have you on for another topic.
Yeah.
I know. I got you.
Especially the SEAL teams, we're horrible at paperwork. But the Army, man, it's all about the paperwork.
Yeah.
So he tells me, hey, you should probably put in the paperwork. I'm like, all right. So I go to the JAG's office, I fill out some form, and I put it in. Well, that was prior to this book coming out, and then all of a sudden I'm called on the carpet, and they were going to just destroy all of us. You're talking, take the trident, boot you, there goes your retirement. Everything you've done was going to be gone like that, because it was just a very knee-jerk emotional reaction to what boils down to be a book that had a whole bunch of information in it that was already out in the public, but they just didn't like the fact that it was a guy on the operation telling the story. That was all it came down to. So, but it was 3 months of investigations. I ended up still having to do a trident board, which means you sit in front of a panel of guys and they decide whether or not you get to keep your trident. You gotta remember, this is after almost 20 years of, time. And I'm sitting here going, are you kidding me? But in the end, because I filled out that one piece of paper that I had forgotten about, right? I'm sitting here getting bored and going, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble. I started a company. I didn't ask for permission. And then one day, about more than halfway through this nightmare, they finally asked, how did the investigator had this 3-ring binder, had all this stuff on Escape the Wolf and this and that, and then by luck I had remembered, like, wait a minute, I got permission to do this, right? And they're like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, my whole chain of command signed off on. I got all 5 guys, and I believe that piece of paper sitting in the JAG's office. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll go check on that. And then sure enough, they go, thank God that piece of paper was still there, because my dumbass didn't have a copy of it. So, it was, they get the piece of paper, like, oh, but they went ahead and, crucified the other 20 guys.
And that's
wow. So the other 20 guys, like, tridents pulled, all that.
I didn't know
other
that.
guys had variations. It was very subjective, but so some guys got tridents pulled and had to sweep the quarterdeck for a year straight. And those that were doing that were told, hey, once you get done with your year, we'll give you your trident back. They got to the 1 year mark, and some of them were told, nah, we're not giving you your trident back. Get out of here.
Man.
But it was, yeah. And you're talking to, these were guys, like, some of them had just had rental properties, and they just didn't ask permission to collect rent from properties they owned. Now, others had other things going on, but bottom line was, man, it was probably like one of the most stressful nightmares during.
And wasn't, if I remember correctly, because I think I heard this from, like, mutual guys that we know, wasn't the Navy allowing guys to be a part of stuff like SOCOM Navy SEALs, which was totally public figure, and right?
Oh yeah,
wasn't that was being allowed?
There was the whole that movie Medal of. Is that
was it? Yeah, it was I know you're talking about.
What's the name of that movie?
Act of Valor.
Act of Valor is all active duty guys sanctioned by Naval Special Warfare.
Yeah.
SOCOM the game, all the guys in that game, Rob Roy and all those dudes are all were all the motivators and recruiters for Naval Special Warfare at the time. So yeah, I mean that's why they really can't get away with punishing any one person for what they do, because they've already set the example a long time ago. The first Navy SEAL movie.
Navy with Charlie Sheen. Yeah.
Supported by the Navy. I mean, so you got guys going Hollywood. It's like, I wonder why.
If as long as it puts them in the good light, as long as it puts, that's what even with the agency, with our stuff. Yeah, there were how many CIA books were there out there given need to know information, and ours actually went through the clearance process. There's nothing classified in there, but it didn't say good things about the agency. Yeah. Or it didn't say bad things, but it said what happened. And of course that thing took forever, and we were hammered. Granted, we did it the right, Army guy doing it the right way with a shitload of paperwork and getting a clearance lawyer, but it's whatever. If it puts DOD or whoever in a good light, go have at it. And give up all the need to know information you need to. If it puts you in a bad light or puts them in a bad light or doesn't say great things about them, but there's nothing that's classified in there, no, we're going to hammer you for it because that is, you're right. It's that double standard. And I knew there was a little bit of that. I heard a little bit of that. And I do know Wymer from, he's actually a friend from the Act of Valor. I talked to him a little about what happened with his stuff, but you're right, man. And there's nothing classified in the book. Nothing. I actually read the book. Actually, I read it in Benghazi. That's where I first read it. And I'm like, man, there's nothing classified in here. Why are they getting all upset about this book? There's no easy day. But I'm glad you got through it. And I'm glad you signed that one piece of paper. They got you out of the hurt locker, man.
Who would have thought, right? One little piece of paper get you in trouble. So
how did you get through it at the time? I mean, just what encouraged you to keep going?
It was, to put it in perspective, like the day that we were put on this list, our pictures were put at all the checkpoints. We weren't even allowed on base.
Holy crap.
Our credentials were I had to meet somebody in a Kroger parking lot and hand over all my creds to get into work. And I was basically on this, pseudo house arrest for, like a month or more without anybody telling me what's going on, because I didn't know about any of this, right? I was just told, operations called me one day and said, don't come into work. I don't know what you did, but your picture is at every checkpoint and they will arrest you when you come in. I was like, what? And then imagine getting that phone call and then everything goes silent from then on out for about a month straight. Like that was, I'm surprised I didn't end up with like 15 ulcers and I'm lucky my hair's still brown.
That's such horse shit.
Man.
So much service and to do that to you. And it is the just the other stuff, the ulcers or weaker person kill themselves. I mean, do they not? They don't even realize it. And not that anybody did. I'm not saying they did. I don't know the other guys, but I'm saying do they not see that that's a possibility that could happen? Because at that time, 20 years, that's your life. And all of a sudden, I'm a criminal, and I've been
our mind, dude. You start spinning this web of like, what did I do? What did I do? I mean, I don't even understand what I do. You're calling people like, what did I do? I don't even know what I did. Nobody would tell me. And it turns out I didn't do a damn thing. And that's the part that was most frustrating about it. But, I think the piece that you guys were asking is like, what did you do to kind of, how do you get through stuff? Like one was just, you just kind of believe in yourself. If you didn't do anything wrong, then you didn't do anything wrong. Number two, I call people who are on your side and support you. So at that moment in time, the former director of the FBI, Louis Freeh, was a friend. And so I call up Louis, and, not only is he one of this country's number one attorneys now and has this incredible law firm that just drops the hammer on people. But he was also a source of friendship. Like he would just give that advice, like, well, I was director, we had all these accidental discharges, negligent discharges. And I can tell you that's worse than anything that if you didn't do, he would just kind of level me out. Like you didn't do anything, so you're probably going to be fine. But I also knew too, he was like, but if you want me to call 60 Minutes, I'll get you on there right now. I was like, I don't want to do media. I'm still active duty, and that would cause me more hell than. Yeah. But it was just nice having those allies, and I would say, that's key. You got to have allies for the good times and especially the bad. So, yeah.
I'm glad you got through it. And like I said, I know you definitely learn from it. And that, that book, No Easy Day that was our example when we, because it was a year. I deployed again. I left after Libya. I went to Yemen for a while. And when we finally decided to do it, we used that as an example of, okay, this is how we should not do it. What do we need to do correctly? So DOD and that don't come after us like they did to the author there that wrote. Sure. And he's good dude. From what I know of him, I know you probably know him better than I do. Great guy. From a tremendous operator in his own right, and just a great guy, just the nicest guy in the world. Yeah, but bro, that's I didn't know that. That's a great story because I did no idea, and that's hell.
Well,
I didn't, and I've known you for a while. I've never heard that.
There's a saying, if you sit inside a fence line full of sharks long enough, you're going to get bit. And that's it's nothing against any one person. It's just sometimes. Bottom line, what happens is, your leaders, they always get pressure from somebody above. And that's ultimately what happened is there was a ton of pressure from the Joint Chiefs onto our CO. And he had an incredibly emotional reaction to it all. Because as we all know, if you're an 06 and you're looking at getting your star, you don't want anything to prevent that. And so he was doing what he thought would, one, protect the command from future incidences, but also protect himself so that he could, make that rank.
Make that rank. It's there. Like we said before you came on the show, it actually works out well. I said, once you get in DC or you get in those levels, and that, I hate to say it, officers become politicians at a certain level. There is a price on integrity. That price you couldn't put on integrity, once you hit that level, and I guess it's the 06 level for all you 06s out there. You could hate me for it. Fine. I said it. Don't get mad at Clint.
Yeah.
I guess at that 06 level, that's where you can put a price on integrity. And again, I know it goes with different people. I've had great 06s that were fantastic leaders and that bit the bullet for us. But there is, and it sucks because it makes everything else shit. And it puts guys like yourself that had a great career. It puts you undue stress that shouldn't happen. And guys are still, I'm sure, still going through it at this time for other things that are going on out there because of, just because of the nature of the world today and the nature of DC today. But yeah, bro, that's a great story. And I'm glad like I said, I use you as an example and you're successful now. So obviously it stayed with you a bit, but you got rid of it. You got over that obstacle and here you are successful again. So
yeah, it definitely bugged the crap out of me for years. I mean, anytime I think about it too long, it gets to me. It's like that feeling of betrayal. You're just like, motherfucker.
Bro, that's what I think.
To bring up one thing, we can shift gears.
Yeah, please do.
So bringing up the common denominator between you and I and Benghazi, that Iraqi flag, Glenn Doherty and I pulled off of a vessel coming out of the KA.
Holy shit.
Before the war started. So
okay, we got time. No, we got time.
Yeah, that's right there.
Were you guys doing, because I was doing anti-piracy contracting at the time. We were first 6 guys, and we knew there were teams like you guys out there doing stuff to ships that were hijacked. I think it was like 2009 or 10. It was right after Captain Phillips got attacked.
Oh, but this was before.
It was before. Yeah, tell us. Yeah, I'd like to know if you don't mind. We got time.
So before 9/11, the regular SEAL teams were just doing VBSS, which is Vessel Board Search and Seizure. That was our primary mission of non-compliant ships. Anything coming out of Iraq, there was an embargo on oil and weapons and a lot of other stuff. So we were tasked to sit out at night. These things would come out all blacked out, zero lights, and they would hug the Iranian waterline. And we would have to get on board those things before they realized we were on board, because then they would turn into Iranian waters, knowing that means we have to get off. We're not allowed to be on a vessel in Iranian waters because it's like an act of war, and it was a lot of stupid stuff. But anyway, so pre 9/11, the deployments I did with Glenn then, we were just boarding ships all the time. It was like it was a good deal.
That's fun. You're in that area.
And during that same trip, that's when the USS Cole got hit, and we supported it. He and I were both the primary medics, and then let's see, then 9/11 happens, and then of course we go into Iraq, and so right when Iraq was kicking off, we boarded some vessels, and that's where we grabbed that thing together.
That's awesome.
And then we pushed. We took down the big Go Plat, secured it, and then we pushed up Highway 1. We hit Nasiriyah, Jessica Lynch, all that crap. Then we went to Baghdad, and then we ended up into Crete, all the way in the north, all in one big push, with the Marine Corps. And but yeah, that's our little link to Benghazi right there.
I didn't know. And Glenn was a tremendous medic, and he was funny. I think when we were in Tripoli together before, he was the only guy on that team that would watch Black Dynamite with me and got the jokes, would understand it. Dude, I like this guy. He's fucking hilarious. He's a good dude. But I didn't. Were you on the same team? I didn't know that. Were you guys on the same team?
We're a team 3 the whole time.
A whole time together?
Yeah, he was a couple of years to me.
I feel like everybody I know is team 3. It's so many of you.
Well, it's pretty interesting. There's like there's a SEAL Team 3 mafia almost, and then you got the dev group kind of. You got both of those that you hear about out here in the outside world. All the sellouts are either from team or
I would, I know we're keeping on time, but I would love to even one more story with Glenn, because I know our listeners would love to hear it, because the movie but it didn't have enough Glenn in it, and it needed to, because he was fucking hilarious. But people get to know how good of a guy he was, and that, just that little nature of him figuring out a way, him and the team over there getting to us, figuring. I mean, that was Glenn.
Yeah.
And I don't think people know him well enough as they should. So if you can give anybody, even me, a little bit of anecdote, something else that may have happened that people would like to hear about.
Yeah. So something I always try to tell people about Glenn. Number one, he lived an entire life before he even joined the Navy. This is a kid that grew up in a boxing gym. His dad was the boxing commissioner in Boston. And so he grew up in a boxing gym. Then when it was time to go, he left home and hitchhiked, the entire United States following the Grateful Dead. Probably smoked a lot of pot. I'm not sure, though. Then he ends up,
which is not what you think of when you think Navy SEAL, following the Grateful Dead with a bunch of hippies.
There are so many hippies in SoCal. I don't people realize that. You got tons of hippies.
He was definitely not even a closet hippie. He was straight up like...
He was freaking Spicoli, dude. I don't know if we call him a hippie. He was Spicoli. He was just Spicoli.
But super intelligent, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a total ski bum. He'd been on the front of every ski magazine before he joined the Navy. He was in Utah, there in Park City, in that area. He was an instructor. He was, that guy had done everything. He'd been up to Alaska. He'd worked on these crazy, dangerous fishing boats. He ended up around a campfire in LA on the beach. And there was some team guys there, and they're kind of all talking. They're like, "Man, you should be a team guy." He's like, "Okay," and he joined the Navy. So he went through BUD/S as like one of the older guys, right?
Yeah.
And obviously got through BUD/S, came to the teams. Heck, in our second deployment, he had like every reconstructive surgery you can think of. I think he had both knees redone. I think a shoulder. I mean, we had one guy in our platoon that was an artist, and he drew each and every one of us. And Glenn was literally like RoboCop, right? But I mean, just and probably one of the best storytellers out there. Like, he could tell stories. He could talk the talk. I always tell people all the time, he can tell you the velocity of every bullet round out there, but at the same time talk about cheese and wine as if he grew up in France. He's super smart, credible athlete. Like, he was one of those guys. You're just like, I fucking hate you.
You're just it's natural.
You're good at everything. You're like, you suck. Yeah. But that's Glenn in a nutshell, man. He was good to go.
I wish it would have come across better there. But again, what can you do? I think they were very respectful of us as far as the movie went. But I watched, like, man, they had some little snippets in there where it was like, Syrian goo. I mean, that's Glenn, the little snippets of the funny stuff. Yeah. It's like, man, he was even funnier than that.
Yeah.
And people, but you're right. He was brilliant. He was, and that's why he was a medic. I mean, you can't be an idiot to be a Delta. It's not possible.
Right. Yeah. So Delta is a whole other world.
Well, that's good to hear, man. And I appreciate you telling me that story as well, because it brings good memories back. I can't watch the movie very well anymore. It kind of pisses me off. Not the movie itself, but just brings back.
Yeah, I bet.
Harder now. But I like to hear stories like that too, because it makes me smile. It makes it, again, worth it. And I do miss it, but man.
That's so cool, man. I didn't know that you guys awesome. Even knew each other. So you went from SEAL Team 3 then to 6, right?
I went to the NSA first.
Okay.
I worked for them for several years, and I was recruited out of the NSA down to the command.
Okay. Awesome.
Very cool, man. I mean, that's a great way to end it, because this audience, I know, reveres Glenn Doherty, and that was great just hearing that story. So check out everything Clint is up to. I mean, we discussed a lot of it here on the show, but 100 Deadly Skills Combat Edition is out now. Check out the TV series, violentnomad.com, at 100 Deadly Skills and at official Violent Nomad, both on Instagram. This has been a total pleasure, man, and it's been a great interview. I mean, like I said, I've known you for a while, and we spoke about a bunch of stuff that I never knew about until now. So I think the audience.
Thank you for that for me, brother. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, man. It's good. It's great hanging out with you. Ian, thanks for having me. Tonto, great meeting you. Thanks for having me.
You too, brother. Of course. Good. You need anything from me?
I'll put you on the board there. I
wouldn't be butthurt if I didn't hear from you about it either. I'm good. I admire you, man, and yeah. I do. I as much as an asshole people sometimes may think I am, I'm not. I really do look at guys before me and try to emulate. I mean, that's what honestly, that's what Rangers are. We never did anything on our own. We just copied everybody else. What's the best of everybody else? Let's take it. And I'm still doing the same thing. That's why I do want people to follow your Instagram page, because there's little snippets that you have on there that people can learn from. If you don't want to read a whole book, get on his Instagram page and check it out, and then they're going to buy your book. And it's cartoons, so at least the first, and what's better than that? How to beat people's ass and
Marine proof.
Yes, of course, Marines. We know you can't read. That's why he did it that way. Now, God bless you, brother. Right. Thanks for your service too.
Thanks so much, man. Dude, he was excellent, and I didn't expect to get into everything that we got into. Had no idea about the Glenn Doherty stuff.
You know what? And I should.
This might be my favorite interview we've done.
I should know that too. That's the dang thing. Is that and I may have heard that at one time, and just I get old and I'm getting senile. I space it, but no, Clint really. It was when I'm doing the training. I look at his pay and like, okay, what is he doing? And can civilians handle it? Is he pushing this out there? And if he's pushing it out there, to me, like the run, fight, run stuff, then I'm like, well, obviously there is a market for it. And you gotta look at guys like I look at him. I look at Rudy Reyes as another one. I'll name drop there, but that's been doing the public.
Yeah, we got to get him on.
Yeah, we love Rudy. Get them on, the guys that have been public figures or been in longer than I have, and because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm going to walk, and I'm going to look at the guys that first of all I respect, but second of all that have really been in the spotlight per se for things they've done, and even more so now because he went through the same shit, if not worse, than what we had to go through with the book, with the scrutiny from the government and the threats and losing security. I lost my security clearance. Or I'm sorry. Let me reiterate. I got it suspended. My lawyer always gets pissed off. Chris, you didn't lose your security clearance. You're going to get in trouble. Okay. They are permanently suspended. I will never have them reinstated. Okay. That's what happened to my security clearance, is by us telling the truth of what took place, even though we didn't give up anything classified in the book or the movie. So that even more so makes me want check and make sure, double check when I'm doing stuff, look at his page and see what he's doing, because he's been through it and even worse.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to ask him because we got into so much other stuff, and maybe when we do a part 2, but I wonder if that inspired him to do a book the way that he did, because he is not the guy who went the memoir route. There's very little about Clint as a person out there. His book it's what it's called. It's 100 Deadly Skills. It's not, this is Clint Emerson's life. It's skills. That's all that it is.
Well, and my opinion is with the other books, and I'm glad he talked about the other books as well as done, and then also bringing other guys into the mix. That's what I do with the Patriots Creed. I don't want to talk about myself. I brought other guys in.
Yeah, which will be a good transition to something I wanted to say.
Okay. Go. But, with that, guys that have gone through things like that, or have gone in special operations, especially the old school guys, they have a plethora, as El Jefe would say, they have a plethora of information that they would like to pass out. It's not, hey, look what I did. That is a good instructor. That's a good leader. It's like, don't look what I did. Here's what I would like you to learn from either mistakes or successes that I've had. And this is where I've put this in a book so you can learn from them, not from learning from my biography. It's like, all right, this is what I've been taught. This, I'm going to pass it down the line. And it's just continually passed down the line, just like Jim West stuff. It's just passed down the line. What did he learn? Okay. What did he learn? What did he learn? All right, let's give it to you. Now you can pass it down the line. And that's great. That means history of SOCOM military combatives will never be tainted, no matter how much social media. In fact, it just reinforces it with social media or fake news or whatever. Is guys are continually telling their stories or pushing things down the line that they've learned, and it's right from the horse's mouth is what he's doing. And that, to me, that just shows he's a good leader. And I, obviously he is.
So I'll transition.
Okay, transition. Let's do it.
I'll whip this out in the Patriots Creed, which you're just seeing until we do video. You wrote about Scott Gearin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I thought the story was interesting, but when we had him on the show, and then when I actually started talking to him off air and I heard about the UFO story, I was like, this guy is amazing, because he has not only one, but two what you would call paranormal experiences. And so for those who don't know, my main job right now, and I'm going to come on full time with them in the coming months, is over at narrative.fm, who's going to work with this podcast in the very near future as well. And I write for one of their shows called Obscurities, which Debbie Rashan is now the voice of, which I'll throw out there as a side note. It's pretty cool that during this whole quarantine or COVID situation, whatever you want to say, really giving opportunities to other people that I like. You know, I love the idea that I could say, hey, let's get someone else in the mix here. And I get someone else a side hustle and narrating stuff. Because Debbie has an awesome voice, and that's why she's the voice of this show. That's something I learned early on, that, you know, you have a show with like two guys, throw a woman in the mix, have a female doing the intro. That's why she's the one doing the intro.
And she's awesome. Sounds great.
Yeah, she's great. So anyway, when I heard that story, I said, I got to write a piece for Obscurities for this, because Obscurities is totally the type of show that would cover a story like Scott Gearon's story. And the source, I mean, really, Chris is one of the co-writers, I would say, on the piece, because my source material was the podcast and your book and Scott Gearon's website. I wrote it all out. I interviewed Scott again, wrote the whole story. Debbie read it. So if you want to check out a podcast after this, go look up Obscurities. Yeah. And the latest episode right now is the Scott Gearon episode. So if you want to learn a little bit more about him than we did, but it's short. It's just like a 15-minute piece, I think. And it's different. It's a storytelling piece. It's not a interview. There's an interview thrown in there, but it's scripted. It's storytelling. So if you guys are into that, definitely check out Obscurities with Scott Gearon. And thanks to Chris for putting that story in his book, because I wouldn't have known about it otherwise.
And that's amazing. Just in this one, who dies and comes back to life and sees the light.
And then sees a UFO.
And then sees it.
And captures it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still waiting on the book. He's sending it to me, but I want to check that out. But we should also plug on here. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about it. Next episode, we are going to have on Ben Morgan, and Ben Morgan's been working his ass off on getting Tonto vodka out on the market in Colorado. And there's several places in Colorado now where you could buy Tonto vodka.
Actually, that's coming talk from Clint and saying the public figure thing and opportunities arise. I never thought the opportunity came up. Dalton Distillery from Georgia said, "Hey, you guys, Tonto, you want to do alcohol?" And I said, "Sure." I said, well, "Let's do whiskey." And I said, No, there's enough Brovet whiskeys out there. Let's go a different route. I don't want to do whiskey. And I said, well, let's do vodka. I like to drink it. When I do drink, I don't drink a ton anymore because I can't. It doesn't go well with my system. I overdrank too much younger, but I do like my vodka and tonic or cranberry juice and vodka every once in a while. And it just came to fruition. Again, it's just, I love you. I don't expect anything to happen. It just sometimes happens, and you take advantage of the situation, or you take advantage of the opportunity, I should say. And I did. And luckily for us, Colorado, I didn't know this, but there's open and closed states. Colorado's an open state. So what that means is that you can go right to a distributor. You don't have to go through the state government or a board or somebody that wants to take your money to tax liquor to get it in the state. And they gave it a chance, and it's done well. It's only been out a week, 10, maybe not even that long. And it's done very well. It's popping up in more stores, and it's good. And the bottle, the background on the bottle, just how family oriented we are. The background of the bottle itself, the actual logo was made by Ben's daughter. She's 14.
Oh, nice.
She drew, and the Jumbo with the Jumbo symbol, that's comes from the movie, of course.
I would have thought it was professional art.
No, she made it, and there's 2 stars in the flag that takes over the Jumbo or the Shaka sign. It's the flag, and I know I'm doing all this so you guys can see it, but you can't because
we'll have video at some point. When I move,
but there's 2 blacked out stars for Ronan Bub to pay out of respect. But then on the interior of the bottle, once you drink it from the inside, it's the Ranger set, because Ben is a 1st Ranger Battalion guy, so a lot of respect for the 75th Ranger Regiment. It's an interior. You see the Ranger DUI, Distinguished Unit Insignia, and then on the back of the bottle is a.
When I hear DUI, I think
Distinguished Unit Insignia. Don't DUI. No drinking and driving. All right, and then on the back of the bottle, there'll always be a story every time we do a new run of the vodka, of a positive story of a veteran that overcame something and with some form of adversity. Because I found too much when we used to drink for our fallen brothers, it was drinking And, it's kind of depressing. Yeah, you're honoring the guys that went before you, but it was always, hey, pour your drink out. Cheers to the ones that have fallen before us. It's like, man, this is depressing. I want to keep drinking. So it was, let's do it different. Let's put something positive. So we're drinking to overcoming, or drinking, hey, to success, that you can overcome adversity. And honestly, the first one is Ben on the back, because he overcame alcoholism growing up. And it's actually in the Patriots Creed as well. His story's in there. So it was like, well, what is more perfect?
So this is interesting. So he's putting out a vodka that he really can't indulge.
He can't. He was, but in high school, we were not buddies. I was the athlete, clean cut for the most part. I got away with some shit, but he was a heathen. He was a alcohol drinking, boozing.
That's got to be weird though, that he's going to bars, marketing this.
But that's Ben is discipline. He is the most disciplined individual I know. He disciplines himself. He can have a drink, but it doesn't divulge now into where he used to not be able to. Yeah, he'll have, but he doesn't. It doesn't suit him. It doesn't make him feel good. So, but he knows what it is, and he knows, being a veteran, he knows what is popular out there, at least more so than I do, because he still has people within the industry as far as the liquor industries. But it was, to me, it was like, yeah, let's do it. This sounds like a new opportunity. It's a new venture. Is it successful or not? I don't know. It's difficult in the liquor world to get it into states. So guys, if you want it in your state, you got to go to your liquor stores and bars and have them order it from their distributors, because if it's a closed state, like I'll put it out there right now, like Alabama, we talked to an Alabama board, and it was a liquor board, their ABC board. And it was, hey, if you don't have a broker, we don't want to listen to you. And they're the ones that set up the conversation. It's like, well, why are we here? What do we need a broker for? Well, you should probably pay somebody to come talk to us. Like, whoa, hold on a second. You want us to pay money to come talk to you, even though you don't have to really do anything except put it out on the shelves? I said, no. So it's finding the little nuances. It's a little hanky with some of the states that you have to grease the wheels. That's again, putting your price on integrity that right now I'm not willing to do. So if it's an open state, hey, it's doing well. It's selling. So please, Town of Vodka, check it out. And if you don't like it, hey, you don't like it, don't drink it. Go back to drinking something else. But if you do, no, I appreciate it, and Ben appreciates it. And Dalton Distillery, the guy that runs it, the original, and I'll hurry up here. Ray,
I'm not in any rush.
Okay, it's a veteran-owned distillery. Ray Butler, who was the original starter of Dalton Distillery, passed away last week. But he was a Vietnam veteran, and he was the original moonshiner. And this recipe is from his father's moonshining days. And Ray used to drive his father's vehicle when he was 12 years old from the cops going through the moonshiner routes. And with that kind of story, when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, heck yeah, I want to be part of this distillery. First of all, it's veteran owned, but that is the coolest story ever. And it's the same moonshine I should say moonshine now. It's the same vodka recipe they've been doing for years. So to me, it's a win-win. It's veteran owned, and it's patriotic, which I think we need more of that nowadays. And it's a positive spin with alcohol and a story on the back. And it represents America, but it also has some 75th Ranger lineage in there. So guys, request it in your states and find a distributor, and we'll get it in there for you. And it's ready to go.
That's cool, man. I think I want one just for the bottle. I don't really even drink that much, but I want the bottle.
The bottle is cool.
You know what I like, just sentimental on display, because I still have somewhere in one of these boxes, I have an Absolute vodka filled, and the story behind it is just, I've said before on the show, when you guys hear the outro, it's Mark Slaughter, Never Giving Up. And I got to become friends with Mark, and I saw them backstage at Mohegan Sun. And they really do it big for them backstage there, and hook them up with all different refreshments and food and all that. And Dana Strum, the bassist, handed me the Absolute vodka. And he's like, just put this in your pocket, man. Head out. Awesome. And I'm like, I don't even really drink. And he's like, I don't get, so I just have it for that memory. It's just a cool memory.
It's cool collecting alcohol bottles, dude. I'll send you one. We'll get you one anyway. I don't even drink.
Cool.
No, I'll get you.
I hope you don't feel bad you know what? My dad will totally.
Dude, you know what?
He'll let me know how good it is too. Or
try.
He'll give me an honest review.
It's vodka. It's corn and sunflower seeds. That's what it's made out of, and it's vodka.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll love it.
But I'll send you a bottle. Just I'll what you'll, and I know you'll post a hell of it on the podcast, man. So it's all good, guys.
I'm looking forward, because the bottle is great. Yeah, man, wrapping things up here, I will say as well, I already said when you're done with this to check out Scott Gearin, but if you're looking for new music, friend of the show, David Silvera, their album is out, Breaking in a Sequence, and the album is called Acronym, which, is because bias, breaking in a sequence. So it's an acronym. So acronym from Breaking the Sequence, if you want to go on iTunes and buy it, or Amazon.
Yeah, I bought it last night.
I always say buy it.
Yeah, it's a great album.
Yeah, I bought it. I always say buy it, don't stream, so those guys could put that money back into the music. Check it out, or even if you do stream, see if you like it and then get it. But you are going to like it if you're a fan of Korn and that whole vibe that he created. That I'll say it myself, man. Actually, I'll say this. I'm a big fan of Eddie Trunk on Sirius XM, and someone called in yesterday, and I'll probably listen to him after I'm done with this, but someone called in and was saying Eddie did a list of top 5 replacement members in a band. And someone called in and they were like, I want to do my top 5 worst replacement members. And to me, it's not that he's bad, but the guy who replaced David, the sound is never the same. David is the drummer for Korn forever, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's a distinct, hard-hitting sound. You can tell when it's Silvera, man. Wow, you can tell how he hits the drum, and it's just that sound that makes you, like, I'm doing my face. You see my face right now. That head banging, that's that beat that goes, and you can tell with on Acronym, that's Silvera. The drums in the background, bang, and it's a great album. So check it out, guys. I agree. I honestly, I don't want to offend Dave, but I compare it to the old Korn albums, the original Korn albums, that kind of rock and roll, good rock music. I honestly think the singer's better on Acronym. Sorry.
And he's a little bit more, I guess you would say, radio friendly in a good way. It's, if you're, because I know there's listeners who are not into the full on screaming, like Phil Labonte does, it's just not their thing. This is a lot more melodic vocal.
Yeah, but it's still hard, and you still got the guitar riffs in there that are outstanding. And again, when you got Dave on the drums, it's always going to be rock and roll. It's always going to be hard because he just hits those drums hard, but the rhythm is there too. The R&B is there as well, and you can tell he's got that. That's what makes a head banging. It's not the screaming and everything. It's the boom, 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 and then the guitar comes in, and then you got a singer. Then you got a good singer, but he doesn't. Believe me, it's not like a lighter voice. It's just. And is it Jonathan? I forget the Korn lead singer. Jonathan Davis. No, he's a great singer. He's got that grumble, that catch grumble that he does. But
this guy is more of, I would say, like a traditionally great singer, though. Jonathan Davis has a really unique voice. This guy really can sing. Yes. He's more of like a David Draymond or something.
Or when Corey Taylor sings, like a Corey Taylor, when he actually sings and doesn't do the scream, but he does a great scream as well. Corey Taylor's got both. And that's the Slipknot singer, guys, if you didn't know that. So, but yeah, tremendous album, brother. I'm glad I didn't know he had it out. I bought it last night on iTunes. I listened to it all, and it's all the songs. It's one of those albums you don't fast forward. You can listen to all the songs through. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm thinking we have all of February booked. Maybe for March we'll have him back on and have on maybe one of the other guys from the band, because I really want to push it out there. I want to see it be a success.
And he looks good on it. Go to Instagram, follow him on Instagram. He looks jacked, even more jacked now than he did when we had him on the show before. It's like, holy,
he bulked up, man. Yeah,
he's like, dude, you're huge. So yeah.
He's the man. So, the last thing I'll say, man, if you guys like the show, this is all word of mouth. So spread it out on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever social media you're on, even just word of mouth. Tell your friends. If you really like this interview with Clint Emerson, that's how we do it. We don't really spend much money on advertising or anything like that. Every now and again, Dylan helped us out with the Jeff DePazzi episode, but it's really you guys getting the word out. And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. But I can't say it enough. I loved this interview. Huge thank you to Clint for coming on and being extremely candid. Sometimes guys come on and they're really reserved. He had some great stories. And I think a lot of guys that one story he told, they probably would have never talked about it again. And he opened up, and I appreciate it. And
I guarantee you, and just so Clint knows out there, he helped somebody. Somebody is going through a hard situation, and just that little bit has helped them get through it. Or at least allowed them to push another day through, to keep grinding and taking those steps to whatever positive outcome they need it to come to. Always envision that positive outcome in your head and just keep grinding. And it's what he did. I mean, man, I'd be pissed. I will hang, or I'd be somebody that I'm pissed enough with what happened to me. I would be livid. And he's, of course he is. It's going to stick with you, which it is. It still makes him angry, where it should rightfully should, but he hasn't let it to affect his life into now where he's just an angry person that is not successful. He utilized it as a fuel to become successful and say, hey, eat shit, you assholes. I'm gonna keep driving on. And he did. And he's amazing. And like I said, he's unbeknownst to him, he has been a mentor to me throughout this process of me with the movie and all that other crap that came with it. And I should say, it's been good. It has. It's a great experience. But it gave me an example of, okay, what should I do? Him. And I said, and I'll give Rudy Ray as another shout out. Rudy's another one where it's like, okay, watch these guys. How have they handled the situation? So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, keep crushing those goals, and really appreciate you guys checking us out every week. Keep spreading the word. Follow us at Battleline Podcast on Instagram, at Battleline Pod on Twitter.
Come train in Florida. Still got a couple weeks.
Yes.
Battleline Capital. Come train in Florida.
Too. I didn't throw that out, so I'll give the dates once again. Paisley, Florida, Full Spectrum Warrior, February 20th and February 21st. Go to tontosgearlocker.com, right under Battleline Tactical. Do it now. We're coming up on less than a month until this, and I'm probably going to be in Florida around the same time. I'm going to possibly checking out, leaving. We'll see.
Come and shoot. I'll bring you a gun, dude. I'll bring you.
I don't think I'm going to be there those exact dates, because those dates I already know. We're going to have Jaden Pinesso from Siler on. I have the whole month.
That's right. You got to do the show. I got to go do that. My fun job. You got to do that fun job. So, all right, yeah. God bless you.
We really enjoy what we're doing. So, yeah, hopefully you guys watch it.
Awesome, guys. Take care. Thanks for listening to us again, and thank you, Clint, for coming on. Really, man.
That's all for this episode of the Battleline Podcast, but we'll be back on Monday with more American straight talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. To sign up for future Battleline tactical courses, go to www.christantoparanto.net. Believe in yourself, face all challenges head on, and as always, never quit.